Hello and welcome to yet another edition of She Talks Business. We are recording this, and I cannot believe that there is only a month left this year. I cannot get over how quickly 2022 has flown by. We have a very special guest for you today, and I just realized I probably should pull my microphone over a little bit there. Andrea Bailey-Brown is with us today. And what an interesting story and journey this woman has had in her business. She is a former teacher turned award-winning entrepreneur who was born in Jamaica and raised in Canada. She is a multi-unit franchise owner with Jiffy Lube who has generated, get this, boys and girls, over $30 million in revenue since owning her locations. She is the founder and CEO of both Bailey-Brown Business Consulting and Bailey-Brown, the franchise agency, where she uses her business knowledge and love of franchising to transform the lives of her clients. Her mission is to help entrepreneurs build wealth through franchise and business ownership. Andrea, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So, I read your bio and I think there's a part missing. You have an MBA too, don't you?
I do. I had got my MBA from Royal Roads about, I think, 5 years ago. So I'm excited about that.
So in spite of all your success, you decided to go back to school and get an MBA. Why did you decide to do that later in life?
Yeah, I did that mainly because I felt like I was transitioning when I was getting out of teaching. And I really have always just done all of my businesses just by instinct, what I felt was right. And I felt like I needed to balance out the practical side of business with the instinctual side of business. So that's really what led me back to doing my MBA.
And do you feel like that was a good decision for you? How has having that more of a business academic viewpoint helped you with the intuitive side of your business?
You know what? I think like it helped me to see that I really knew what I knew. It just kind of confirmed all of those knowings that I had. And it just, I think it just makes a difference. Of course, it helps you, doing the MBA help you to build a great network. So some of my classmates or colleagues have now reached out to me for work, for advice. And so it helps you also to build your network and just to help you learn the practical side of business as well.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's something that I considered doing, even though I'm a high school dropout. I considered getting an executive MBA over a decade ago, and I never ended up following through on it, but I'm a lifelong learner. So I think it's just so impressive that you were committed enough to do that work and get that accreditation later on in life. And I mean, it's not like you're super old, but it's, I think anytime someone who is married, already started their career, has kids, decides to go back to school and do something like that, it's a really courageous move.
Oh, most definitely. I would say sometimes people think it's like a selfish choice, but I love that word that you use, lifelong learner. And I had this idea too, though, that I was going to just be doing a lot of reading and studying companies, which we did. We did practice, we looked at real companies and went inside of them and did things, but I just thought that it would be all that until it came time to write all of those papers and to be graded and judged. And I'm like, oh, this is real work. It's not just like, personal studying that you do. So a lot of eye-opening moments. But you're right, it also requires a big commitment. There's some of my colleagues and classmates that never got those 3 letters MBA because they could not focus enough to complete their OMP, which is the organizational management project, similar to like a thesis or dissertation. And it's like 100-page document. They never got it done because they really didn't know how to focus and really hand in the last thing that they needed. So it really does take a lot of commitment for sure.
Yeah, one of my old VPs used to always say that the reason that post-secondary education matters isn't so much that you went to a post-secondary education little institution, but that you actually had the commitment to finish. And I
Yes.
think there's a lot to be said to that, whether it's writing 100-page, whatever it was you just called it, or, even finishing a book or your dissertation, like those things are really, really hard to do. And most people, I don't think, can focus long enough to finish. I think that's a really,
Exactly.
yeah, an important trait. So, there is an expression in life that you can't chase two bunnies and catch either one. You can't ride two horses with one bum. And yet you have three businesses. And so most people will say, follow one course until successful. That's the acronym for focus.
Yeah.
And here you are, $30 million franchise business and two other businesses on the side. And I happen to know your husband and know there's another business in the mix too. So
Yeah.
I wanted to have this conversation with you specifically because so many entrepreneurs are told to not change lanes, not do more than one thing, stick with what you start, go all in there. How do you balance being a multi-passionate, multi-business owner?
Wow, I think that's a fantastic question. I do believe, Lisa, like there is something that's calling, and maybe sometimes you practice earlier in life, and there's some people they will have like their kids back to back. There's some people once their kid hits a certain age, like a teenager, the thought of having another child again, they're like, no, I can't do it. So I think for me, it's because while I started my teaching career, I never did one thing only. While I was teaching, I started my first business when I was at university. In my third year university, I bought my first business, which was a chocolate business, which ended up we sold to the Royals eventually. They sold the chocolate, not the business.
Mhm.
But so I was always maybe riding those two horses and figuring it out as I went along.
Sorry,
Um,
Faith says hi.
hello there. Yes. So I think even when I started teaching, I was still running that business. And then we eventually closed. We had two businesses at the time and we closed them. And that was my first venture into learning about how entrepreneurship worked and realizing that you can't just sell not every business can be sold. So that was a big eye opener for me with that business. Once I started teaching, I got into direct sales. So I was teaching during the day, and in the evening, I would go out and do parties and, sell clothing. And so I think maybe for me, it would be equivalent to having children close together that I figured out earlier on how to balance two things. So when it came time and I was teaching, I was able to teach and buy my first franchise business, which is with Jiffy Lube. And I think some people maybe can do it. Some people have figured out the system. And I think it's just with experience and time, I learned how to ride those different horses and find the balance. And the fact of the matter is the business that we are in now, Jiffy Lube is more established with a team, with help and bookkeepers and everyone. So it makes it easier now at this stage for us to take on other businesses because it's almost like an entity on its own that can manage without us. And we've always tried to build our businesses that they will run without us being the main operator in them. So
I think
that's
that's a really, really important thing, what you just said. My husband and I are always talking about how do we diversify and have additional businesses and additional revenue streams because we're both entrepreneurial. And I think what you just said is operating the business so that you can be the owner and not the operator is really key. So can you talk a little bit about how do you do that? Because what I have found is many entrepreneurs are in love with the idea of building a business, but they have a really hard time transitioning out of maker mode into manager mode.
right.
So, what are some of the characteristics or skills or secret sauce that you have in order to be able to actually do this?
Yeah, I think a word that came to me yesterday. I was meeting with someone, and they also own a really awesome restaurant in our city here. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and they own this great business. You say the name, and someone would know what the business is, but no one knows that he's the owner. And the word he used, he said, "I want to have a faceless business." And that stuck with me. And I think that's what our business is with Jiffy Lube. It's faceless. People don't know that it's Andrea and Alric in that business. So we
Mhm.
want it to be run that people come for their service, get their oil change, do everything that they want without looking specifically for us. So I would say that you have to be intentional about the type of business that you want to have, the type of entrepreneur that you'd like to be. We would like to, we're planning our holidays coming up, and we want to be away for about 10 days. And that means a lot to us. So the lifestyle that we want to have really matters. So that in order to have that lifestyle, in order to make the money that you're making work for you, then you have to trust people, you have to train them. And I also basically learned, like, companies like Walmart, Home Depot, they basically put in their line item that there will be an amount for loss, and they plan for that. So sometimes I think entrepreneurs are afraid that, oh my God, if I leave the business, people might steal, this may not go as planned. You almost have to learn from bigger companies who are able to do it. And we know our employees won't be perfect, and we're also okay with that. And we know that we don't treat ourselves like we're super special, that we're the only one that can run our business the way it's meant to. We realize that we have to train other people to run it just like we would.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so important to invest in your people. So I understand all of that in a franchise model.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your other two businesses and how you're building those businesses so that you have time freedom, because your name is on both of those businesses?
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, my name is on the business, you're right. And that's why I use the last name Bailey-Brown, because that could be anyone. It could be joined with two people. So, but what I've learned, what we've done is, and we've had to do it, is we've always had to look back at franchise systems and what are some of the lessons that we can learn from our franchise business. And now that I'm selling franchises and helping people turn their business into franchise, we really have to study that model even more, because I think the franchise model is amazing when it comes to scaling a business. And I basically think it's the blueprint for scaling any business. So for myself and for my husband, there are times we have to sit down and say, okay, tell me, why does this work at Jiffy Lube, and how can we make it also work in this business? And the first thing in franchise business, you'd never open a franchise without hiring 3, 4, 6 people. And if you're opening a restaurant, they'll tell you you need probably, if like a quick serve restaurant, you will need about 20 employees, right? So we're also learning in this business how to basically take everything we've learned from the franchise world into
Mhm.
it. So I think there's a few things that I've had to put in place for myself in terms of trying to build out systems, getting help from other people so that I can actually bring in a structure in my business that was not there initially when I start, because once you start, you try to figure it all by yourself. And I'm thinking that would never work in a franchise system.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about the work you do in helping people to buy franchises. Who is a good fit for buying a franchise? And, what type of capital investment should people be considering if they want to buy a franchise? I think people think that you need gobs and gobs of money to buy a franchise, and that we all know, I think it used to be a McDonald's or a Tim Hortons was $1 million to buy a franchise. And
Yeah.
so that I know that today it's not that far out of reach. I mean, maybe a Tim Hortons and a McDonald's are, but there are more affordable and accessible options. Could you talk to us a little bit about who should be considering a franchise, and what are some of the investment ranges that people should be thinking about, and maybe what are some of the benefits of owning a franchise?
Yeah, all great questions. So, who should be considering a franchise? I would say if you want to become an entrepreneur, you want to get into a business, but you don't necessarily want to start that business from scratch and you don't want to do it all by yourself. If you're looking to get into a business and you're looking for speed, then I would say franchise most definitely is the way to go. If you're currently in a career or in work that you're not really loving and you'd like to be like, we call it career transition. You'd like to get out of that. And you've always known all along that you just really want to do something for yourself, but you don't know what, you don't know where to start. I would say, you should really consider looking at the franchise options that are available. And then we will also have business owners who already have businesses and they know the value of owning a business. They already know the value of entrepreneurship and they want to add other assets to their portfolio. So sometimes we have people like those will reach out to us to say, okay, I want to add an investment business. They may not want to work it. We call it, maybe they want to be semi-absentee in that business. So they're looking for other businesses to add to their portfolio. So they are the people that should be considering investing in a franchise. I think when you ask about who is like what's the different levels of investment, definitely I would say McDonald's and, Tim Hortons, Burger King, all of them, they put franchising on the map. And then on the flip side, they also made franchising look unattainable for the average person
I would
because
agree.
yeah, so if you're driving around, most of the franchises that you're going to see that is visible, you're seeing the big names, the golden arches, and then people already count themselves out. They're like, okay, that's not for me. I don't have that kind of money. So I think that's the flip side of franchising. So what we do is at our agency, we help people to invest in franchises. We have 500 different brands in our portfolio. And I think that's great. So the thing why a lot of people come to us is we're going to show you brands that you may have never thought about, that you did not even know it's a franchise. Even as big as Jiffy Lube is, people say to me, oh, I did not know that was a franchise, because people thought it was all corporately owned. So I can basically help people look at smaller options that they have never really thought about and options that are doing really, really well. I've seen a concept that came across. I was in Florida for the International Franchise Professional Retreat, and I was able to meet with different franchisors. And I've seen some brands that are doing, 5 million, 7 million, and you don't need that to get into the business. So the value of working with someone like myself, I'll be able to help you to see some of the brands and concepts that would have never been on your radar, that you don't even know that they're franchise, and we have so many options.
So what is the entry level minimum amount of money somebody should be considering investing if they want to get into franchising? And I understand, Andrea, that there's a tremendous range, right? I know that there's a huge range. So I'm not saying, I basically want to know what the bottom floor is for somebody to consider getting into franchising, because I want people to know where the ceiling starts, because I think it's more accessible than what people realize.
Absolutely. So there's some franchise brands that you can get into starting at like $25,000. So that's on average. I've seen where you can start. If you have, once you start to move into, say, $50,000 of liquid capital, and again, liquid means that you have access to it right away. You can write the check, in a day or two. You have access to those funds. So 25,000 for sure, and then 50,000 you're looking into. You're going to get more options there. So that's a really good starting point. The banks love franchises too, so they're more likely to lend you the rest of the money that you need. And that's what we have found. Like when I work with some of the bankers, they'll give me a list. Okay, these are all the franchises that we've already funded and financed. So when you come with a name, they're like, oh yeah, we've already worked with them, so we know what to expect, how much money you'll make. So it makes it a lot easier as well. But with all business, Lisa, as you know, with all investment, you also have to come with something to the table. So it's like buying a house. Like if you're looking for financing, you can't say to the bank, finance 100% for me and I won't take any risk. They're going to say to you, you're investing in this business, you also have to take part in that risk of, of buying into a business. So at least come to the table with some money of your own. So that's, that's what I would say.
Well, and not only it's more than just the money to buy the franchise. You also need cash flow to operate your business. So if you're going, I would say to people, if you're going to buy, and this, I know I'm not a franchise expert by any means, but I owned a dealership, which is, similar to a franchise model. I would say that if you are considering a franchise that maybe is $100,000 to buy, you probably want to have access to 200,000. I mean, you're going to want to have operating cash flow to get yourself off the ground so that you can hire people. There's always a setup stage before the startup. Before you're actually generating revenue, you have to pay for a lot of things to get your franchise built out, including, yourself a paycheck if you are leaving a job and you're dependent on that income. So to your point, if you come to the table with at least 50% of the money that you need, the bank is probably going to be willing to work with you. But if you're coming to the table with $200 in cash and you want a $50,000 front from the bank and you don't have any operating cash flow, probably not going to happen.
Exactly. And you sound like an expert to me, Lisa. You do know what you're talking about, and you're the best when it comes to cash flow and operation. And you're so right. And even some franchise brands will tell you how much they recommend of working capital that you should have as you're building out this franchise and as you're getting it off the ground. And especially if you're planning to run the business and you're leaving a job, well, how are you going to, pay for your expense, how are you going to live and pay your employees? So they will even help you work that out to say, this is what we really think you should have on hand for cash.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so in your experience, what are the greatest benefits of franchise ownership?
Yeah, I mean, I love franchising. And that's the reason why, as a franchise owner myself, I could turn around and now, open an agency to help people get into this industry. And I think the greatest benefit, number one, I think you're buying the name brand. And once you branding, I think means a lot. You're buying that license of the name brand. And with the name brand, you can get off the ground a lot faster. People will know you right away. And I always tell people, if I had tried to open Andrea and Ulrich's lube shop, we probably would do okay. We're hard workers, but I don't really think we would have had the measure of success that we've had now had we not bought into a franchise. And so I give credit to the franchise brand, but I also give credit to our hard work, because I know it was together why we were able to achieve that success. And I think another benefit is the network of a franchise business. You're not alone. There's always the franchise brand wants to succeed wants you to succeed, because it makes their brand look way better as well. So they're going to give you help. They're going to send someone to help you with setup. Some franchise brands even offer you a franchise business coach to help you along the way to make sure that you are successful. And of course, you own the business by yourself. You're going to take on that capital risk, but you're definitely not by yourself, because the brand will be there helping you. And they've done it so many times, especially with an established brand. They're going to know to say, okay, here are the pitfalls. This is where you should advertise. Don't even do this. It's not worth it. So
Mhm.
So many benefits. I could geek out on this section.
Yeah. I love the idea of basically the playbook that you get when you open a franchise. If you are not an experienced business owner, having that playbook is a really great way to learn how to run a business. And if you are an experienced business owner and you want to have a secondary business and maybe be an absentee business owner or only invested in the business a little bit, that
Yes.
playbook makes it a lot easier for you to step away from the business sooner, because when you hire a manager to run the business, they have a built-in system that's going to show them how to be successful.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. Shaquille O'Neal, who plays, famous
Mm,
basketball player MVP, he invests a lot in franchises, and he was one of the main speaker at the International Franchise Association, their conference. And basically, when people ask him why, he said, exactly what you said, because of that playbook. He came out of basketball where there was always team, there was a playbook, everything was, followed a system. And he felt like he needed that system when he left basketball. And
mhm,
so a lot of his assets are invested in franchise systems. And he's also now started his own franchise business called Big Chicken or something like that. But he really sees the benefits. So you're right on with that word, where you get that playbook as to
mhm,
how to succeed. And of course, you can always add your own flavor and add a few things maybe that the franchise brand has not, they really haven't thought about. So I would also say sometimes people are afraid of franchising because they believe you're going to be very robotic, like everything is so you have no input, you have no say. And I think that's some of the negative that people believe about franchising. And it's not so at all, because I know for all of our franchise that we have, we decide on the hours, we decide on who to hire, we decide on pricing. And I know it's not the same in all of the brands, but you can find a brand that gives you at least a say and helps you to still be creative. And we have to also figure out our own local advertising.
mhm.
So I think it's you can find a brand that still gives you a say in how to run that business.
Yeah. So you also have a consulting business.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about the work that you do in your consulting business and why you decided that you wanted to do that work.
Yeah, I think also when I went back to do my MBA, we had different specialties. You could choose leadership, management consulting, or some people chose Asia Pacific if you wanted to work in Asia and some of those countries. And I chose management consulting. At first, I thought about leadership, but I felt like I'd been doing so much leadership work. So in management consulting, I started to realize that I had a lot of knowledge, business knowledge, that I really wanted to share and give back to people. And I really thought if I started with the management consulting side of things, then it would give me like a bit of a foundation to really start moving into business consulting and helping other people with their business, increasing profits and sale. So that's where that thought came from.
Well, I think it also helps that you were a teacher, because you
Yes.
are naturally really good at teaching and explaining things to people. And I think when you couple that with your franchise experience, I know you and I've worked together for years. And when I look at the systems and processes that you put together around profitability, I think you just think differently than a lot of other people do that are in consulting. Like you are intuitively franchising it inside of your consulting business through the systems and IP that you create to basically teach people what you know. I think it's really
Yes.
smart.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. I think that's part of it too. Yeah, my teaching experience, thinking differently, and I started to realize that. And I think something that a lot of people don't realize is a lot of the skills that we all have is transferable. And inside of my franchise business and consulting business, when a client come to us, the first thing we really recommend that they do is a franchise business assessment. And it's where we take all of those unique skills and talent that they have, and we put it together and realize, okay, how can you transfer those skills into other business, into other areas? And I feel that a lot of entrepreneurs that I meet, they feel, or people that haven't moved to the other side of entrepreneurship, sometimes they feel like, oh, what else can I do? I'm only an accountant. I only know accounting, and don't realize that their business and their skills can be transferred to other areas. So that's one of the things I realized that I had.
So, I'm curious. Like I said, you and I have worked together for a few years now, and this year, you and your husband even came to Florida, and we spent a day working on strategy together, which was, a really, really, really great experience. Have you always worked with a coach since you've been a business owner or an advisor, or was this something new for you?
I would say it was something new for me. I've not always worked with a business coach. I think when when you think of a business like Jiffy Lube, you almost feel like it runs itself. You put your shingle up and people come and find you. But my husband and I, we always like to be ahead of the curve, and we're always looking like, what else can we do? So I've not necessarily always worked with a coach, but when I wanted to get into the consulting business, and I really looked at it and I thought, I know I have my MBA, I've done all of these things, but there's something different about this world, about using the internet to run your business, using social media, using all of that. So I kind of give myself credit in knowing what I did not know. And I know where I did my MBA, Royal Road, they offer like an executive coaching business model. And I already felt like that was not going to be it. Like, taking that course was not going to help me to transfer all of my skills and know how to package it. So I have to give myself credit in figuring that out. So that's when I met you, and I was introduced to you, and I felt, okay, I think Lisa can really help me figure this out. So I think part of life is also realizing that you have to know when you don't know something, and be okay with that, and when to ask for help.
Yeah, I think what was really insightful about what you said is you were able to figure out the nuances that you didn't know. You didn't need me to teach you anything about business. It was more looking at, how do I translate my marketing to an online model when I'm coming from bricks and mortar and I know all of this stuff about business. You were actually able to diagnose what you didn't know and find somebody who could help you kind of work through that. And I think that's a really important distinction for anyone who's listening to this. When you are thinking about working with a coach or mentor, an advisor, a consultant, really getting clear on what is the outcome that you're looking for and what is the nuance where you need help. Especially this time of year, everybody and their dog is preaching, hire a coach, hire a coach, hire a coach. But yet you've just told me that you have a $30 million business and you didn't have a coach. So guess what, boys and girls, sometimes you don't need a coach. You need to, don't hire a coach because everybody else tells you need a coach. Spend some time really thinking about, what do you need help with, and finding the person that can actually align with whatever it is that you need help with. Right, Faith? Yeah.
Yes.
These dogs want to go for a WALK and they want to eat their FOOD. It's that time of day.
Yes.
All right. What were you going to say, Andrea? I cut you off.
Oh, no, I think you're right. In terms of if franchising equals speed, which I do believe, coaching also equals speed. So it's another way of getting to where you want to get to faster with someone who's already done it, who has been there before. So you also have to know what you need in your business and what speed you're looking for and in what section specifically. So that's that was the value of me definitely reaching out and getting a coach.
Yeah. I think there's something else that I would add to that. One of my favorite blog posts is momentum loves speed. And I think that momentum does love speed, but momentum thrives on action. And so if you bought a franchise, but you didn't open the doors and you didn't do what needed to be done, then you're not going to get to success any faster than if you just sat at home on the couch. And the same is true if you decide to invest in a business advisor. If you're not prepared to take action on the things that you want to learn, which often means that you have to do things that make you uncomfortable, and you're not going to get the results as quickly as you would like either. Absolutely. All right. So let's wrap up with one final question. Being a multi-passionate business owner, what advice do you have for anyone who's listening right now who is thinking about, they've got multiple business ideas too, and they've bought into the story that you should only do one thing? What advice do you have for those people in terms of being able to be successful at riding multiple horses with one button?
Yes. What I would definitely say is it is possible. You can have multiple businesses and it can be done. You just have to decide what will the multiple businesses look like. So one of the things for me, I noticed that they're in different sectors. The bricks and mortar type business is different than a consulting agency type business. So if the models are different, also you have to look at timing as well. I was able to build out my my franchise business so much so that the revenue that was coming in allowed me the time to do something else and to be able to look into different fields, and also knowing that we don't know how much longer we're going to be with our Jiffy Lube businesses. So we also have to make sure that we're putting other things in place. But I definitely think it is possible, but you really have to come up with a good plan, and you have to make sure that you've built out something really good first as you are building on other things, and that you're not afraid to hire people. People is the answer. Like, you are not going to do it all by yourself. And that's what we have figured out. And that's how we've been able to ride all these different horses at the same time.
I think that's really, really great advice. It's like, don't try to do it all at once. Get one thing up and running and working well before you add, a secondary business. Otherwise, you're going to end up with two businesses that are underperforming. So get that one business performing so well that you can afford to step away and build something else. One other question that I have for you.
Yes.
You and your husband work together. Any tips on being successful in business when you're married to your business partner?
Yeah. Oh, yes. We love working together. That's the thing. We like each other's company, but we also realize that we are skilled in different parts of the business. My husband is the operations guy, the teams guy. He knows how to build a great team around him. He knows how to sell the vision and get people involved. And I'm more on the strategy side. I'm looking at, how do we get this business in front of more eyes? I look at marketing. Who do we hire? I'm more likely the one to find the business coach. Where do we go? Who do we need to see? So I think because we're clear on our role and we're clear that we're great at different things, I trust him completely. If he wants to order 10 gallons of oil for something, I'm not going to question it. If he wants to bring in 5 more vehicles in the automotive business, I'm not questioning it. And he doesn't question me either when I say, this is the person we need to hire, this is who we need to see, this is what I think. So I think that's the key thing, not competing in roles. And sometimes when we're incorporating new companies, he doesn't care, like, who's CEO, who's president, like, we are no longer, it doesn't matter to us anymore. But what matters is the role that each person has, and so that we can trust each other to execute on their role.
That's really, really great advice. Really great advice. Clearly defined roles and a high degree of trust. And a high degree of trust means that you both behave with integrity in terms of how you do your part of the business, so that you don't disrupt the trust, right?
Yes.
Super.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much for being a guest today and for sharing everything that you did. It was super, super valuable. You provided a lot of really great information to our listeners, not only about franchising, but just even thinking about business and owning multiple businesses. And,
Yeah.
there's so much more that we could talk about, because I know you're also really, really smart about predicting what's going to happen in the market and when to exit businesses too.
Yeah,
So maybe that's another conversation for another day.
for
We will
sure.
be sure to put all of the links to your website and social in the show notes so that people can find you.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for saying yes to this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening. And if you've been listening to She Talks Business all year and you have not yet left a review on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever podcast service you are listening to, I would really appreciate this holiday season if you would give me a little bit of love for showing up every single week for almost 2 years now and leave us a little review. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.